Tifu by allowing my friends to frame a picture of my penis. This happened 2 weeks ago, but I found out today. Throwaways they use Reddit. My best friend, male, is married to a photographer. She is actually quite well respected locally, and has bad exhibitions, just not quite like this. They have a young son who I went round to babysit for while they had a well-earned break. My best friend, being the loving but incompetent idiot he is, bought her an expensive Polaroid camera, which is markedly worse than anything his wife owns. They've given it to their son, who has shown no interest whatsoever. So I'm pissing around with him, watching cartoons, and spot the camera among his things. My friend and I have a childish sense of humor, so I take the camera and take a Polaroid of my junk. It turns out horribly blurry, dark, and you can't work out what it is. I leave it on my mate's desk on his keyboard and forget about it, hoping when he sees it, he will get a laugh when he works out what it is. Babysitting goes fine, I leave. I went round to visit today and immediately saw the Polaroid, framed, on their kitchen wall. I absolutely crack up and ask why it's there. His wife replies that it's child's first photo. He took it and left it on daddy's desk for him. She was so proud that her son had used the camera, taken a photo, and gave it to his dad that she framed and hung it. I haven't got the courage to break it to them that it's not their child's first photo taken, it's my dick, and they framed it. TLDR. Took a photo of my junk on a child's Polaroid camera, and left it around as a joke for my best friend. They mistakenly believe their child likes photography and framed by dick. Tifu by telling my boyfriend I was pregnant. So my F-up technically began yesterday morning when I wanted to make some breakfast. I haven't been grocery shopping for a few days, so my food options were a bit slim when it came to breakfast. After searching through the cupboards and fridge and not finding much, I decided to toast a hamburger bun with peanut butter. It's just my boyfriend and me at home, so when we buy packs of buns, we end up freezing most of them as we can't eat them all before they go moldy. So I grab one out of the freezer and pop it in the oven to defrost toast. A minute or two later, my boyfriend walks in the door and asks if I can give him a ride to the mechanic, as he needed to drop his truck off for some work. He also says we can grab a bite to eat while we are out. I'm all for it, so I grab my keys, put my shoes on, and run out the door. As I'm just about to get in the car, I remember I had the oven on, so I sprint back inside, switch it off quickly without taking the bun out, and just figure I'll take it out when we get back. Well, by the time we got home I completely forgot and we went on with our day. This morning he decided to make BLTs for breakfast, and I am stoked. I'm hanging out in bed and sipping my coffee while he is getting the food ready. Suddenly, I hear him go, "Oh my god," and run into the room with an excited look on his face. I can tell he is excited, but also confused, when he says, "Is this your way of telling me you are pregnant?" Some backstory real quick. I underwent treatment for breast cancer last year, and I'm still on hormone therapy. The odds of me getting pregnant right now are pretty much nil, and we've been told that I'll need to undergo IVF to try and attempt any kind of pregnancy, but that won't be for a couple more years. It's a bummer, but hey, I beat cancer, so it could be worse. Anyway, I'm staring at him completely confused, and he says, "You left a bun in the oven. Does that mean you have a bun in the oven?" Suddenly it all clicks in my head and I start laughing and have to explain that no, I'm not pregnant, just forgetful. We both had a good laugh once I explained what happened, but I felt horrible after seeing how excited he got. TLDR, I left a bun in the oven, and my boyfriend thought that was my cute way of telling him I'm pregnant, had to ruin the excitement and explain I just forgot some food in there. Tifu by slapping a loaf of bread. Warning. Looking at other posts on here, I have to say that this is going to be a tame one. Since lockdown started and the United Kingdom went crazy for home baking, my fiancé has been lovingly making bread for us when she finds the spare time, and as an amateur bread connoisseur, I have to say that these loaves are honestly the best I've ever tasted. Well, so far this morning we've been cooped up inside because it's hot out, so my fiancé decided to make a couple of loaves. Over the course of the last hour whilst the bread was rising, we've had an onset of cabin fever. What started off as a mature conversation about garden sheds quickly devolved into playful and goofy dancing in our kitchen. This is where the story goes south. They were just sitting there, faintly glistening in the morning sun, having been recently released from their restrictive covers. The dough looked perfect, both pillowing out from their tins and ready to be put into the oven. Well, I couldn't help myself. In a moment of weakness and playful aggression, I gave one loaf a clean and firm slap. The mood changed. The mix of dread and mild anger on my fiancé's face was immediate. "What the F are you doing?" she said as I retracted my hand from the crime scene. Within moments, what was once a voluptuous item of food shriveled down into the bread equivalent of Spirited Away's Yubaba, and I knew that I had effed up big time in a small kind of way. After some mild beratement, from which our neighbors now probably think I'm a cold-hearted monster, my fiancé reformed the dough, then stormed off to continue looking at sheds. We're still waiting to see what the second loaf will look like, but seeing as the first looks absolutely perfect after its time in the oven, I have to admit that I feel bad. Thankfully, all she demands is a cup of tea for reparation, so I'd best get going. TLDR, I slapped the life out a loaf of bread before it was meant to go into the oven, and now I hate myself. Tifu by imitating my parents when they have sex. So this happened decades ago, but I didn't realize how much I effed up until today. Note: I am male. One night as a kid, I woke up and heard smacking noises and a distinct oh noise. It was very unique and reminded me of a sea lion. I snuck out of my room and peeked into my parents' room and saw my dad porking my mom under the light of the TV. I was too young to understand they were having sex, but I knew I was seeing something taboo, and I just snuck back into my room. Pretty shortly, whenever I wrestled my brothers or cousins or friends who came over, I did what kids do, and that's imitate. I would start making the distinct oh noise. Once I learned what sex was, as well as a kid can anyway, I would purposely hump others for fun and make the oh noise. Soon they were copying me, and we were all humping each other as a prank, going oh. Fast forward to today, my nephew was over, and I dropped my sandwich and shouted "frig frag," which is unique to me. Immediately, my nephew went around imitating me yelling "frig frag." It was embarrassing because it was obvious that he had picked it up from me because no one else says that. Then I flashed back to my childhood where we would all hump each other and scream oh. While my parents were in the other room and realized that out of all the porn I watched, no one sounded like that except my mom. That's when I finally realized my parents knew all along we were making the sex noises my mom make. TLDR, I realized decades later that my parents listened to me and my friends copying their sex noises, and knew exactly who we were copying. Tifu by submitting my mom's erotic novel as my university essay. Okay, so first time poster, obligatory. This was a little while ago, no actually today. So, I'm a third-year university student, and in the last semester we had a large essay as the final assessment, instead of an exam due to COVID. My mom has been writing books for a little while on her computer, and we share a Google Drive account as she sometimes needs me to print things for her. Fast forward to the night before my essay is due. My MacBook dies. Now, when I say die, I mean won't turn on, won't charge, nothing. In sheer panic, I remember I luckily saved the finished copy to my Google Drive. As the essay is due at 24:00 that night and it's 23:30, I hastily click into my Google Drive and click on the document named final1.docs. I successfully upload my document and breathe a sigh of relief. It's not until a few days and many confused emails later do I realize I've uploaded one of my mom's erotic books she has been writing instead of my final essay. Needless to say, I failed the class and had a lot of explaining to do. TLDR. Accidentally uploaded my mom's erotic novel instead of my essay, and failed the class. Tifu by walking on my mom and stepfather. Walking in on. So, this all happened about 3 years ago. I was around 11. I had only known my stepdad for roughly 1 year before, and I hadn't really gotten used to him being around. I woke up one morning and had to go to the bathroom. I walked up to the door and my mom called my name. I went in and they were both lying there looking like they had just woken up. She wanted me to go make them a cup of tea. Reluctantly, I went downstairs and put the kettle on. I didn't really mind doing it because I like tea and was planning on having one anyway. I sorted it all out and it took no longer than 5 minutes to get everything done. I put the 3 mugs onto a tray and started to carry them upstairs. I figured since she'd asked me to go get tea, I wouldn't need to knock or anything because they'd be expecting it. I opened the door to see my stepdad on top of her. They both weren't facing me, so they didn't see me. I immediately backed out of the room and shouted, "Tea's ready." I heard lots of shuffling about and then went back in. I gave them their tea and got out of there. Traumatized. TLDR. After being asked to make some tea, I went and made some and brought it back upstairs. I went back into their room to give it to them and found them doing something strange. Tifu by slapping a stranger's ass. So this happened some time ago, during this winter, but I decided to tell this story now. Near my school, I'm in high school, there is a public ice rink, and every winter our PE teacher uses the opportunity and makes several lessons there. Even though most of us knows how to skate, we still always rent so-called skating chairs. It is basically a chair, but it has grips on the back, so one can sit there, and the other can ride him around the rink. Generally newbies use them, but they're just fun to ride too. So my friend is driving me on that chair, and suddenly we notice 2 guys standing by the railing of the rink, and one of them is my other friend. Now, important side note. As for nearly all boys, for us one of the funniest things is to slap friend's ass, the harder the better. We drive up to them and I give the friend-looking guy a nice juicy ass slap. He turns around and I realize that he is just a random stranger. Another side note. Our country is not very tolerant, so one must think before doing some gay stuff. We start dying from laughter, and for 5 minutes I'm not even able to explain what happened, while the victim just stands and tries to understand what to do. When I finally tell him that he looks like my friend etc., he just rolls his eyes and goes away. I hope I didn't hit too hard. TLDR. A stranger looked from the back like my friend, so I gave him a nice ass slap. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more.